Hello and welcome to this new video. Today I thought why not just give you guys a little book recommendations video or kind of my favorite books of all time. So yeah, let's get right into it. I've made 4 little piles beside me. One is fantasy, romance, literary fiction, and like other, because it's like 2 books that are other. I'm just going to start with the romance pile, I guess, because that's the genre I read the most, I think, or at least I read the most. I think my book taste is kind of evolving, I guess, and I read like more out of my comfort zone. But these are some of my favorite books. So let's start off with All That's Left in the World by Eric J. Brown. This is something that I read recently and I absolutely loved it. It's kind of dystopian, I guess. Like, basically, the whole world ended, or most of the people died because of what's called the super flu, so a virus, I think it was. And now there are these 2 boys who found each other and they try to figure out what to do, because everything's kind of falling apart or has been falling apart, so they try to find a way to make things better and be more hopeful in a sense. And I really like this book. I like the characters, I like the setting. I think it is such an interesting concept to just, I don't know, make I mean, it's kind of mean to say that everybody dies, but most people die. And that's not a good thing, don't get me wrong, but just the way that this really showed the way that people just are was really interesting, and to see how people act after such an event is really well done in this book. And I really liked it. It also has a subplot of romance, obviously, because it's or not a subplot, it's a big plot, but romance. And I would really recommend it. I really enjoyed this one. Then we have Funny Story by Emily Henry. And I haven't read a lot of her books. I read 2 books of her, but this one was definitely one of my favorites, also just in general last year. And it's kind of like 2 exes, and they move into this apartment because both of their exes are now together, and the main character, Daphne, was also engaged to the guy, so it's kind of a crazy situation, I guess. But it was really fun. I really like the characters. She works in a library. It was just such a fun vibe, and especially for the summer, I think this is great. This one is great for like spring, summery times. I'm a mood reader, so I want to know at what time of year the book is set so that I know when to read it. So I'm just going to add that to every single book. So spring, summer vibes. Let's move on. Heartstopper. I love this. This is representation for the whole series. I read the whole series 2 times, and I've watched this show 2 times also, or 3 times maybe. And I absolutely love it. It's such a cute story, and yes, it's cheesy, but that's the point of it. I mean, it's great. If you haven't heard about it, it's just a fun little romance about these 2 boys falling in love, and I absolutely love it. It's adorable, and the whole friend group is queer, and I love it. It's just fun times. Definitely a must read. Also, I think you can read that at all times. Like, the whole series just flows throughout the year, so it's very fun. The next one I have is The Lucky List by Rachel Lippincott. And this is the same author who wrote 5 Feet Apart, but I love this one especially. I kind of want to reread it because it's like such a fun vibe. Basically, you have this girl and her mom passed away, and she finds her mom's bucket list, and she also re-meets kind of this girl that she was friends with when she was little, but they moved away, but now they're coming back. Basically, the two girls then go on to like complete her mom's bucket list, and it was just such a fun summery vibe. One is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I don't have it because I read my sister's copy of it. Better Than the Movies is about a girl named Liz, and she has always wanted like the perfect romance kind of, and then this guy who she had a crush on her like her whole life comes back into her town, and she wants him to see her as something other than little Liz, and her neighbor helps her to kind of get his attention, and it's just so fun and also kind of summery vibes, I think, and just amazing. This is a Christmas themed book, but I love it so much. I read this last year. It's called The Nightmare Before Christmas. In this world, all of the holidays, so Christmas, I don't know, Halloween, Easter, and all of that are represented by people, and they are kind of like royals. I mean, they're not talked about as royals, but I feel like the vibe is they're royals. And we have the Prince of Christmas and the Prince of Halloween, and it's set during winter, during Christmas, and it's just so fun. The main character is really fun to just read about because he's kind of like, he feels very real, I think, and I really enjoyed that one. So if you're looking for a Christmas book, definitely read that one. And now we're kind of morphing into romance and literary fiction, I think. So the next one is My Policeman. If you don't know about this, it's a romance set in the 50s, I think it was. And you just have this like triangle situation going on with two guys who are in love and this woman who's also in love was with one of the guys, and they're like a friend group, and it's a little complicated. It's also a movie, and Harry Styles is in it, and honestly the movie is so good. I only watched it once because it's very heart-wrenching. This is also kind of a depressing book, but it's still very good. The writing is very good, and everything about it is just really mwah. So kind of summery vibes, but also kind of depressing summery vibes, so you know, that's kind of the vibe. The next one I also don't have a physical copy of, but it's Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan, I think. Yeah. And it's kind of a women's literary fiction and romance combined, I think. I don't know, kind of that vibe. It's also like a summery vibe, and basically it's this woman, Nora, who is a screenwriter. Then she writes a movie about her ex-relationship, or her relationship with her ex-husband, and the movie is partially being filmed at her house where she lives, and then there's this actor. That's kind of everything you need to know. Now, I think because we're already in a literary type of vibe, let's continue with the literary pile. I'm going to start with one of my favorite authors, which is Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have 3 books that I especially love from her. Actually 4. Also, honorable mention, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It's like the 50s drama, high class. She's an actress. It's really fun, but it's still on my shelf, and I haven't read that one in a while, and I think compared to these, it's not like as, I don't know, as detailed maybe? I don't know. But yeah, let me start off with Carrie Soto's Back. This one is about a tennis player. It's set in the 90s. It's giving, all of her books give summer vibes, just so you know. She's a famous tennis player, but she had to retire, or she retired, and then somebody's about to beat her world record, and she does not want that to happen, so she comes out of her retirement and kind of plays her way to the top again. And there's a subplot of romance. There's like fun family relationship with her father, and it's just so good. But yeah, I really, really like this one. Then Daisy Jones and the Six. I love this. This is probably my favorite because it's like a band in the 70s, a rock band, and it's just so fun. There are heavy topics like drug use, alcohol abuse, and those kind of things, which is obviously not fun, but I think the way it all is combined is really well done, and like the characters are also real, and there's a show and it's amazing, and they made songs and their songs are amazing. I absolutely love it. And then we also have Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which is also, as I said, one of my favorites. It's about a woman who moves back to her hometown, Los Angeles, and there is this situation that happens where she makes a decision or she doesn't, and then you have two timelines that kind of flow out differently, and I thought that was such an interesting story, because you follow the same person but just different things that could have happened if she had made a different choice, and I thought that was so interesting. And there's also a subplot of romance as always, but I also think the friendship dynamics that were in this book were really amazing. And yeah, I just really, really loved this one. It was just so different, but I really, really liked it. Also one of my favorite authors, which is Alice Oseman. This one is Solitaire, which is just kind of a literary vibe, but it also, I feel like it has kind of a mystery vibe, and also a little bit of a romance, but yeah, it's just fun. It's also kind of depressing because the main character, Tori Spring, which is the sister of Charlie Spring from the Heartstopper series, so it's kind of all connected. She's kind of a not so enthused character, let me put it that way, and I really like this one, but the one that I liked even more by Alice Oseman is Loveless, which I don't have because I loaned it to my sister, but Loveless by Alice Oseman is so, so good. It kind of deals a lot with figuring out who you are in college, and it kind of has a fall vibe. The main girl character tries to figure out who she is and kind of, who she is, what she wants, what she doesn't want, and that's kind of, I don't know, it was just really good. I don't know how else to put it, but it's really good. And the last one from this category I want to talk about is The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer, which I also don't have a physical copy of because I read it on Kindle, but let me tell you, I loved that book. It was so good. It was kind of I don't really know how to explain it. It's kind of crazy. It's like, if you love books, you will love that book. Okay, here's the thing. Okay, it's hard to explain, but I'll try. It's about a woman who wants to adopt a child from the school she works at because he doesn't have any parents, that he moves from house to house every now and then because nobody wants to adopt him permanently, and she really loves taking care of him after school and things like that. So then she gets this offer kind of to go to the island of a very famous children's book author, and the books he wrote or the vibe that I think they portray very well is the vibe of the Magic Tree House, so that's kind of the connection, I don't know. And she goes to the island, and then she has this game to get through, and then there's a prize at the end, and it's just so fun. It's pretty short as well, 200 or 230 pages or something like that, I don't know. And it was such a fun vibe, fall-esque, and kind of mystery also. Not really, but it felt kind of mysterious in some way. And it also felt like a magical realism book, although it wasn't, but that was just kind of the vibe. Everything felt very magical, even though it wasn't. So that's also a very fun story. Now let's move on to the random pile, which is a nonfiction and a mystery. Let's start with the nonfiction, which is Fix the System, Not the Women. I read this one last month and it's pretty short. It has like barely over 200 pages, I think. Yeah. And this is by Laura Bates and it is very, very good. It is just kind of about the way that we live in a society or in a system that is against women, basically. And like everything is undermined by examples that women have sent to her. It's just very good, and I think everybody who feels like sometimes the world is against them, especially if you're a woman. Obviously this is a book about women, but also if you're a man, you should read this, because I feel like not a lot of people actually realize the misogyny in our world, and I didn't even realize that it was this deep, so definitely worth the time. And then the other book from the random pile is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jack. This is so amazing. And this is also a series. Basically, the first book is about a girl named Pip, or Pippa, and she decides to study a case of two people who died 5 years ago, I think it was 5 years ago, for a school project. And that's kind of all you need to know. It was done so well. There's also a TV show to it. It's very good. If you are afraid of mysteries, this is the best mystery I have ever read, and it deserves the hype 100%. I mean, the hype was years ago, but it is amazing, so read it. It's also the only mystery book on this pile, because I'm not a huge mystery reader. Like, I like to read a mystery from time to time. Moving on to the last little pile of books that I have read here. This is my fantasy pile. I only got into fantasy like last year, like really got into fantasy, so I haven't read a lot of fantasies. Like most of the fantasies that you see in this shelf I haven't read, because that's my TBR shelf. So I haven't read ACOTAR, I haven't read The Hunger Games, the Shatter Me series and all of that kind of jazz. But maybe I'll do like reading vlogs or something of me reading those series. I think that could be very fun, and just see my reaction to them. But these are my fantasy recommendations. All of these are series actually, so if you're looking for a good fantasy series, definitely watch the next couple of minutes. I'm going to start with like the classic, which is Percy Jackson. I only have the first 3 copies in my shelf right now, because my sister is still in the middle of reading the series, and I love this series. It's so fun. Like, the first book especially is really good for a first book, and I don't know, you follow Percy Jackson and he figures out that he's something other than human, and he goes to this camp, and it's just a really good vibe and so fun. And what you have to keep in mind when reading this is a children's book. Well, not a children's book, but it's for like 11-year-olds. So don't judge it too hard. Just read it and have fun with it, because it is fun. And I love it. So there you go. There's also a show that goes along with this series. There are kind of mixed opinions on the show. I liked it. I can understand why some people have mixed feelings about it, because they changed quite a lot, but I still thought it was very good. But definitely make sure to read the book first, or the series. But yeah, that's Percy Jackson, everybody. What shall we do next? We'll just go up by the age, I think. The next one I would recommend to you is the Cruel Prince series, or the series itself is called the Folk of the Air series. The series is just really bingeable, because you really want to know what happens next, because the ending is just crazy. You follow a girl named Jude, and she's actually human, but when she was little her parents got killed by a man who is a fae, and because one of her sisters actually is half human, half fae, but she is fae, kind of, because that like overweighs the humanness. And then that man that is the father of her sister, so her stepfather, I guess, takes her into the world of the fae and just lets them live there, takes care of them, all of that kind of stuff. And it has a romance, but it's like enemies to lovers, but they stay enemies, which is, I didn't really know what that meant when I read this, but it makes so much sense and I love it. It's really good. Definitely give this a try if you haven't, but this is also very popular, so you probably have read this by this point. Moving on to a book that is also a series. This is Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Merer, and this is exactly what it sounds like. She's the assistant to the villain, and there's also some blood of romance, and it's just good vibes. Honestly, it's kind of silly and funny because like it's like a humorous book, I would say. I don't know, but I really like this one. And the last book I would like to recommend, not the last book, this is a series and it's a big one, but it's the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I read this last year and it took me 2.5 months to read this series. Months. But it was worth it, let me tell you that. This is actually this is the first book. There is a prequel that comes before it though, and some people argue you should read the prequel fourth or third, but I read the prequel first because it made the most sense to me. I really like that reading order, but basically it's about this assassin named Selena, and she goes to a competition where she has the chance to become the king's champion, and she kind of competes with other assassins to become the king's champion and to do chores for him and things like that. So it's really good. Every single book just gets better and better and better, but this book is already so amazing, so I would really recommend this series. My battery just died, but I'm back. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody who watched my first video and who commented and liked and subscribed. I'm so grateful to all of you, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked some of the books. If you've read any of these, definitely let me know your thoughts about them in the comments. If you have any more recommendations, also let me know what else I should read. Maybe your favorite books. I think I could make a fun little video reading your guys' favorite books, so definitely let me know. And you can also follow me on Instagram if you want to. That's it for me. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one, hopefully. Bye!